We will start with item 8A. Councilor Majuk.
Thank you, Council Pro Tem. Item 8A is a nuisance abatement, increasing fines from $2,000 to $10,000. I'm okay with it. Any questions from my fellow councilors?
Let's roll.
All right, all set. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 9 will be with John, as there's no Commissioner Deeds.
Right.
Item 10.
Item 10, we are holding until we meet on the 9th.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Caldwell.
Thank you, Pro Temp Michael Green, Counselor. I don't know which one is your title today. What is? Thank you. I have items 11 through 18, and I think we're all set. Any questions? I don't think we have any questions on them.
Okay.
Anybody? We're all set.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you, Councilor. I have items 19 through 32. Items 24, 25, and 26 will be discussed in executive session immediately following this meeting. All other items are ready unless there's any questions from councilors. Okay. Councilor Guthers.
I have items 33 through 55. We're going to hold 33. All the other items are ready.
Okay. Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Hogan.
Thank you, President. Thank you, Councilor Green.
Hold up, Councilor, sorry.
Wait.
Excuse me, Councilor Gather, I'm sorry, I'm catching up with myself here. Okay, all right, cool. So we are holding, Court Counsel, we are holding 33, right? Okay, all right. Sorry about interrupting the meeting.
No, it's all right.
We'll forgive you this time, City Clerk.
We're holding it, right? Yes. Okay, cool.
Am I okay to go now?
You're ready to go, Councilor.
Councilor Green, I have 56, 57, 58. I will hold 56. 57 and 58, I want to ask the Corporation Counsel, Mr. Berry, to come up and just go over just the procedural thing that I had questions on. It's sort of odd, not odd, but sort of unusual that we'll be passing and adopt and approve this draft generic environmental impact statement today and then have a public hearing afterwards. But this is sort of a state-type situation, correct?
Good afternoon, Councilors. Joe Barry, First Assistant Counsel. As Councilor Hogan noted, this is kind of an unusual process in that it follows the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, which we saw a couple of years ago with the lead abatement ordinance, and now we're seeing again. We started this process early in 2020 with what they call the scoping document, which is kind of a broad outline of the potential environmental impact of adopting a new zoning ordinance. And now the state is asking us to prepare and issue to the public what's called the draft environmental impact statement. And this document, which you have before you, will allow the public to see our analysis of the potential environmental impact of adopting a new zoning ordinance. And unlike other public hearings, when we were maybe imposing slurry sale, for example, we do it all. We have a public hearing, then we vote on the final ordinance. This is a two-stage process. So today we're asking you to approve the draft for public review and a public comment period, which will extend until September 2nd. And as those public comments, written comments come back, plus the public hearing, which you'll have on August 22nd to receive verbal comments, staff will help gather all those responses and prepare for you what they call the final environmental impact statement. So you'll be basically voting after you have received all these comments and digested them and had a chance to analyze them. So as I mentioned, it's a two-step process. Today, followed by the public comment period, followed by the final adoption of the environmental impact statement. And at that point, we go on to the ordinance itself. So what we're analyzing now is just its impact, its potential impact on the environment. The ordinance itself will be considered by the Planning Commission after the environmental review and come over to you for review as a policy document on its own merits. once the environmental matter has been settled. I do have our outside counsel, Matt Kerwin, our expert at environmental review here, if you want to dive into it a little more deeply.
Well, I'm not sure. After the public comments, we'll have a chance to look them over, and then there'll be a chance to amend the final document that comes before us or change it.
Within parameters, and that's where it gets a little tricky.
So I should call
I'll
Matt
defer
up
to
here.
Matt to,
Let's
if you
call Matt
have
up here.
concerns about that.
What are those parameters there, Mr. Kerwin?
Good afternoon, how are you? The parameters are set forth, good afternoon, Council. The parameters are set forth in the draft environmental impact statement. So what you have before you is a kind of a synopsis of all the analysis that's gone into the rezone document so far from pursuant to the secret regulations. So the environmental impact statement draft you have in front of you proposes certain mitigation measures to address various different impacts like affordable housing. For instance, if after the secret process is complete, the council determines that certain mitigation measures should be implemented into the rezone document itself, you have the ability to do that after the secret process has been finalized, yeah.
Okay. Any questions from my colleagues? Everybody read through this over the weekend. It was scintillating reading, I'll tell you.
So just to recap, basically, if there's something beyond what's being proposed in rezone that the DGIS did not consider, then we have to go back to the drawing board with that specific issue and do like a mini seeker? Is that?
That's accurate, yes. Whatever, so there's parameters within the the draft environmental impact statement within which you can make changes to the rezone. Anything outside those parameters would need to come back for further review.
What about the timing? Because this thing took forever to come back here. So does that mean that whatever correction we need to make with the DGIS, will it take another 2 years for it to get going?
No, that's a good question. No. So assuming any revisions you make are within the parameters of the environmental review, that can proceed as quickly or as slowly as the council would like. Once the secret process is complete, and we anticipate that process will be complete within the next 3 to 4 months, the council would be off to the races in terms of how you want to address any changes going forward.
Actually, we're doing this pretty quickly since the last time it was done is in 1967. So I think if there are no other questions, I'll call both of them ready, 57 and 58. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Majuk?
Thank you, Council Green. I have item 59 through 76. All the items are ready on my part, except is Chief, any of the police officers here today? Yes, so item 63, I had questions about it last time, and they sent us a data here, but I'm reading through it. But the basic question I want to know is, we know ShotSpotter is a great tool, but I really want to know in terms of direct data, what has it helped in any way? Yes, you can hear gunshot, but has it really done anything in terms of solving crimes?
Sure. Counselors, Amanda Harrington, Assistant Corporation Counsel. I'm here on behalf of the police because all of the chiefs are at the funeral services for the fallen Rochester police officer today. So I can answer to the best of my ability, but if it's not suitable, let me know and I'll follow up with the chiefs. I think ShotSpotter is a valuable tool. It certainly is helpful. It's one of the reasons the chiefs continue to advocate for its services. It helps localize and direct the services that the officers need to provide to our constituents.
Okay, so I assume a shot. So the data I want to know and I want to hear about is through the ShotSpotter, shots that are fired, and the ShotSpotter alert the department. Now, how many of those that were heard have been actually solved? That's what I want to know.
I can get that data for you, Counselor.
And if I could just add, I know Councilor Hogan and I have been to numerous neighborhood meetings where constituents continue to ask these questions over and over again, and it varies with what ShotSpotter does. Sometimes it notifies you of the noise. They get there, they can't confirm that the noise was was a gun. Or they get there and they find casings, but then they can't connect it to any crime
Right.
that's been done. And then, of course, there's finding suspects and all of
Yeah.
that, so.
And victims, yeah.
Is API involved at all, the innovations group, with doing any of that analysis?
I'm not sure. We could follow up on that. It's a catch-22. It's both sides of the apple. As I believe First Deputy Chief said the last time we were together, ShotSpotter will get some shot sounds that no one has reported. So at least we get to the scene. Sometimes we don't, unless ShotSpotter does it, we don't even get the information because no call went in. I don't know how often that is, but that's one thing it does. The catch-22 is that we're responding and we're bringing all our resources to the scene to collect data and provide information. We don't have the specific data you want. We can get that data, but I will say to you that if it solves one murder for a lost loved one, I think it was worth the value.
And Deputy Mayor, for me, this is an honest question. I really, because what is it, $716,000 up
Yeah.
to that?
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
pennies now, right?
Not at
right?
all.
And for me, I really want to know that data, because if the shot spotter is saying there's an alert here, and we are sending officers here to that spot, in which they should be here for, and they're going here for nothing. You know, we should be sending them over here where people are on, you know, are on the list waiting to be responded to. You see, so I think I want to hold it for another voting.
Okay.
So we can have discussion on that data.
Okay.
And really get into it, and really, because every district councilor here, at least let me speak on my behalf, I get asked, right, is this working? Is this working? But it's a good initiative, but I just want to know
Yep.
the data.
I would ask that we can take a snapshot of data instead of the collective data to find out. So if we look at maybe cases over the past year and see whether or not any of that data solved those cases. Is that feasible? Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
One thing that I can say, Counselor, is that from what I was told, the ShotSpotter helps know where the high crime rate is. So if in an area of a street that they keep getting shots fired, they know that there's something going on in this neighborhood, so they can keep more idea of what's going on in that neighborhood versus another neighborhood. So it gives them a roundabout where the crime is, or where the shooting is, or where the gangs are. So I know it helps them with that, because I'm pretty sure that a lot of the shots fired are in similar spaces.
So that's a great point, because instead of that wide net policing that nobody wants, you know, we want to really hone in and target in and where we're finding shots fired or homicides happening. This is a great tool, because then we have data that tells us exactly what is that volume of shooting going in areas. So as we create policing strategies, we have a data tool that can send us to a specific area instead of the broad brush, which none of us want to happen.
So with this data though, are we moving to a point where the shot spotter is located, that there's more cameras like in that area? Because it seems like it would make more sense to have the cameras where the shot spotter is. But I don't know if we have enough funding to add a camera to each shot spotter.
So that's a great point, because maybe as we're looking at the analysis of where the data is, and we'll make a comparison and the point about API to correlate all of this, is whether or not we should be expanding areas. I know that recently with ARPA that you approved, we did expand to the north side of town, and that was because of cameras that were helping us understand what was going on over there, and constituent and citizen reports. So I think looking at the data from both, we might say, we may realize that ShotSpotter isn't needed in particular areas, but really coordinating that with our camera program, and which has expanded through the roof.
Deputy Mayor, I mean, on this, broken, charge my account. So Deputy Mayor, so SST is separate from, they're the analytical people, right? They're the ones that checking out the ShotSpotter location, is that it?
Yes.
I'm just wondering if this contract, is it because contracts start July 1st? I mean, it's not going to affect the contract by holding it, is it? Or
That's a great question that,
that's what I'm here for.
I will,
Because
I
my-
don't
my
know the
feeling-
availability of the chiefs right now, to be able to get that information.
Could you find that out for us, Deputy Mayor?
I don't know if I can find it out by 1 o'clock because they're at a funeral.
Okay, okay.
I was just thinking, if I could,
contract, right.
I just think that, that I think it probably analytically, after
Right.
3 years, we'll probably know a lot more obviously than after just a year or so. So I think you'll get all the data, but I hate to just do
Yeah,
it
no, it's a
like a
great point,
snapshot
Counselor.
like we
It's a great
get now, and why not we'll go all the way through this and
And we can make the commitment of really triangulating all of this information around its usefulness, where it should be, and how it's coordinating with our camera system.
so I would urge,
I think it would be a great committee
This
meeting.
was an easy fix, because he did ask for it last week, so
Yeah.
if they would've just sent it to him Thursday or Friday, it would've been easy.
Yeah, I have.
I don't think, no, I don't think it's quick and easy, but, point taken.
I have stuff here, but they are all over, but it doesn't zero in on what I'm asking. It
yes,
doesn't-
we don't have that answer, so if, you know,
Yeah.
we don't have that answer before 12,
Okay, all
before
right.
1
I
o'clock.
don't want to hold it any further, so I'm all set.
Okay. Thank you, Counselor.
We're gonna let it go, and then we're gonna have a committee meeting.
it's a great idea, Counselor.
So you're not holding it.
Okay. Counselor Allen.
Because I don't know, we don't want to lose these items with the contract, we don't know what the contract
You're not gonna lose it, we do this all the time. You guys hold stuff, but you won't hold it. Based on the-
Thank you. All right, so I have items 77 through 84. Yes. All right, so 77 was ready. We're gonna hold items 78 and 79. We did hear from, I forgot the gentleman's name from Northeast Community Center, but,
Brian Fay?
yeah, I would want to hear a little bit from Dunbar and Interfaith and Westcott, only to see if, I know you guys say that they have the capacity, but I do want to hear from them if they can reach out to us to see what their capacity is. With the digital navigators, are these going to be new employees that they're hiring, or is it going to be a job that existing employees are going to have? So if somehow, I think I seen Jen.
And Counselor Allen, if I could just, Counselor Caldwell asked about the west side, and on her initiative, I did call Mary Lou Sales, the Huntington Family Center, and I know Brian's mentioned that they had contacted Huntington and Southwest. She was somewhat confused about this whole issue, and she was going to talk to Brian about it.
Okay.
Because I guess they're on the same, there's a similar board they serve on together. So
Right.
that's a good point that Counselor Caldwell had brought up. And
Yeah.
And I think based on what Brian said last week, I think he said Southwest and maybe Huntington and maybe other centers didn't have the infrastructure in place.
you know,
right?
that's why I called Mary Lou Sale. I'm sorry.
Right.
She's the director of Huntington Family Center,
yeah.
so she was a little confused.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Yeah, I think to answer your question, though, Counselor Allen, so the funding for this program actually enables them to hire 5 new full-time resources. 1 program manager, which basically manages the entire program for the city, and then 1 full-time navigator, which would be placed at each of those 4 sites. So the capacity issue is really on top of the staffing for the navigator services. It's, you know, do the centers where the resources are placed have the supervisory capacity and the physical, you know, office space for the person to sit and that sort of thing. But at least the work that would be done to engage with the community, to have the one-on-one or group classes for digital literacy, all of that would be performed by the 5 new full-time resources that this funding enables them to hire, basically. So that would be new capacity for each of the 4 centers. And the 4 centers are a pilot, so the theory would be if it's very successful, then they can do some additional fundraising and and hopefully expand services beyond that, maybe to some of the other city-based centers. And then I know they're also in talks with the county about potentially doing something outside of the city too. So, so that's kind of where it stands now. But if this group would prefer to have a committee meeting and meet with folks from all the centers, we can certainly set that up.
I think that would help too, because we don't know, like, is the marketing going to be centralized just from Northeast? Because these are 4 separate sides of towns. The marketing strategy has to be different. It's reaching different people, different populations. So I think that'll be good for us if the other counselors want somebody from Dunbar, Interfaith, and then somebody from Westcott.
Jennifer, is the expectation for these agencies to sustain the program after our money is gone?
Yeah, so I think that is the expectation, and they're already starting to do some fundraising. There's actually quite a lot of interest in these types of programs now, and there's some new sources of federal funding. ARPA obviously really promotes these types of programs. I think, as everyone here knows, broadband and internet connectivity is a specific enumerated use of ARPA, but even beyond that, there are some additional programs in the infrastructure bill and in other federal programs now to support this funding. And then actually several private philanthropies support digital navigator programs now. So Brian and all of the community centers are actively looking for other sources of funding for year 2 beyond. So this would really help them to jumpstart the program, but then, yeah, they would need to fundraise for the out years.
So that is where that capacity, it's maybe doubtful from some of the people in the list.
And may I ask you how much? Now, I think, like I said, I think the program is a great program, but my concern as well, like I mentioned it to Councilor Allen and to everyone else, is that it's not hitting the whole city, and making sure that we talk to the capacity of the organizations, making sure they can fulfill it. And the other thing is, how much is going towards staff? I see it's $430,000, right?
Right.
And for 1 year, for that, half of that money is going towards staff, right?
Yeah, it's a very staffing intensive service, right? Because it is a lot of one-on-one, as well as group class setting type trainings and things like that. So as Brian mentioned last week, it's a program, right? It's not just delivering, equipment or, devices or that kind of thing to people. It's really getting them training. And the design that they've come up with for the program really has kind of an expectation that folks engage for a certain amount of time. So it's not just I come and take one class and then suddenly I'm, digitally literate. It's, you have to kind of commit to 2 to 3 months of, activity to really be able to best take advantage of what this type of program provides. So it's a lot of sustained casework, kind of like a lot of the other programs that our community centers deliver. It's heavy case management and making sure you maintain contact with someone. So it's not just a single time, but it's multiple times. So I think that's kind of, and Brian and folks can kind of get into all of the details about what their case model looks like for this, but that's certainly the expectation, that they're really establishing ongoing engagement with all of the people that take advantage of this.
That's not necessarily the navigator. That would be staff from each of the centers.
Exactly. So there's a little bit of case management time carved out for other existing staff. So again, that kind of gets to the capacity question at each of the centers.
I think, Councilor, that's a good idea.
Yeah, so we'll hold it, have a committee meeting, and then you can just invite them.
That sounds great. I'll let Brian know. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, items 80 through 84 were ready. And then I'll just have a waiver item. That would be item 85. And that's just to amend, it's just a name change, changing from, let me see, what was their name before? It used to be Center for Core Innovations, but they changed their name to Justice Innovation. So it's just a name change. That'll be item 85, and I'll introduce that at 1 o'clock. And that's all.
Okay, I'll take a motion to adjourn to executive session to discuss legal settlements.
Second.
All in favor?
Wait.
Okay.